everyone, welcome. My name is Ethan Hamlet-Stroll, and I'm part of the technical documentation team here at mscrm-addons.com. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at custom pages in Power Apps and how you can set up DocumentsCorePack to be integrated within them. I'll be walking you through an example that demonstrates how exactly you can do that and how you can prepare your custom page for this feature. This video serves as a visual guide for an article that we offer on our website, so to check that out, make sure to check out the description down below. Now then, let's get started. So before we begin, we need to ask, what exactly are custom pages? Custom pages effectively take Canvas apps and put them in the form of a page. This page you can then summon from a record in the form of a side dialog or a full page or so on. We'll be taking a look at an already finished app, or an already finished Canvas page rather, to see exactly what we need to do to prepare our app in order to be able to have DocumentsCorePack integration. So here's our app. As you can see here, we already have a design for it here. Pretty simple. What you see here is that we have a page here with some of our logos on here, our brick and beam logos. We have a drop down here and a generate button, and we have a label that isn't hidden, that is a little bit hidden right now, and this label will show the name of the record when we summon it from the record. The idea behind this app is that we will summon this from a quote record. We will select the template from this drop down, and then once we've selected it, we'll hit generate, and then our generated document will appear in this section here. So with that in mind, how do we actually configure this app to be able to do that? Well, first, the first thing you want to do before you even get started on coding this is make sure you have the right data added. So in our app here, very important, you need to make sure you have the DocumentsCorePack connector as part of this app, and you need to make sure you have the mscrm-addons.com DocumentsCorePack template table as a part of this. Additionally, you'll need to make sure that you have the table of the record that you want to do this for. In our example, we'll be having quotes as our table as part of this. Once you have that, then you can make sure you can start putting in the code. Before you start to code some of the other controls though, it's important that you make sure that we have some parameters passed in upon the startup of the app. These parameters will take the record information and pass it to the app, so that way we can use this information for the document generation process later. So if you select the app here itself and make sure that the action is on start, you'll see that we already have some code here. This is to set two parameters, the selected item and then the selected quote. The selected item parameter is used here for the selected quote, and the selected quote parameter will be used later in other parts of this app. Then you can take a look at coding some of the other labels or some of the other controls. For example, here for the upper label, we have our selected quote here already used. This will display the name of the quote along with the quote ID. And then we'll also have this drop down, which will filter out all templates based on the quote entity. That way, this ensures that when we start our app, the only things that we'll get from this are templates that will work with the quote entity. Otherwise, you're just going to get templates that would work for all entities, and then you might select the wrong template and it wouldn't work. So make sure you have this filtered correctly. Then we'll have our generate button here, which is the cornerstone of this app. There's quite a bit of code here in play. Also, just so you're not concerned, this code is also available in the article that this video will be a part of. So for any of this code that you might want to copy and paste for your own examples, please make sure to check that article. But for this generate button, you'll see here, of course, we have a little bit of a notification for letting you know that the document generation process has started. Setting some things to be visible, setting some things to be false, just for presentation's sake. But the key here is this. the update context section here. So this is where we'll actually trigger the document generation process itself. We'll basically, in order to actually trigger the document generation process, you need to run a flow with the information that we have gotten from startup. And then that flow will do the document generation process and then pass that information back. We will detail this a little bit later, but I think it'd be important to just note this now. So that's generally all you need to know about this app, at least for right now. Again, we'll detail the flow itself a little bit later. But next thing we need to make sure is actually being able to set up the custom command so that way we can summon this. As a sort of preview, I already have a quote record summoned right here. This is what the final button will look like. It says custom quoting, has a PDF logo there, and the idea is that when we click this, it'll actually summon the page, and then we can work from it from there. But we need to be able to create this custom command first. So let's take a look at how we need to do that. To create the custom command, you need to make sure you go into the app that this will be part of. So this is for our Sales Hub app. So you go to Sales Hub here, and you want to make sure you go to edit it. When you're here, you'll need to make sure you add the custom page itself here. So up here, you can hit add page, custom page, and then add the page from here. In our case, the page is called custom page quoting. We've already added that, so we don't need to add it again. But once we have it added, then we'll need to make sure we go to the correct view to edit the commands for it. So again, we'll need to go to our quotes view since we're doing this for a quote record. We're going to go to the ellipses button here, edit command bar, and we will go to edit in new tab. So when this loads, you'll be provided with the list of all commands related to the record. Before that though, you'll need to make sure you could choose a command bar to edit. When you're working with custom pages, you can set them up to work with any of these, main grid, main form, subgrid, so on. But for our example here, we are just going to be editing with we're just going to be working with the main form. So we'll click edit, and that'll get things ready. So we already have our custom button here, and we'll get into that in a second. But when you're initially setting up your custom command, what you'll need to do is, of course, you'll need to make sure you create a new command up here, and then create a new JavaScript command. This is important because we'll actually be adding in a web resource that will run on JavaScript. So make sure when you do that, you click JavaScript and then hit continue. Once the command has actually been added, then what you'll want to do is you'll want to add a custom web resource, or add the library. So for example, if you add library, you add a new web resource, and then you'll need to add this custom JavaScript. What does this JavaScript look like? Well, this is also part of the article, so don't worry if you miss it here. But this is the custom JavaScript that you'll need to add. It is a rather short function, open custom page dialog, and this is where you'll be passing in some of the relevant information. And this will get then passed on to the app. So you'll see here that we have page type, custom, name, entity name, and record ID. And then of course we have the navigation options. Two things to note here. The name, you'll see here that this says new custom page quoting. Where do we get this from? We actually get this from, let's see if we can pull it up here, from our custom page itself. So when you actually go to create the custom page in your solution, you'll see in this column, it'll say name, and this is the name that you'll be using for this code. So in this case, in our case, it's new custom page quoting, so on. The other thing I'd like to note here is the target and position values. These will basically influence what the page will look like when you summon it. So for our example, it's going to be a side dialog, so it'll come out right on the side. But you can customize this so that way if you want, it can just be a full page that gets summoned, or a different kind of dialog, so on. So let's see. So let's go back to our custom button. Once you've added the web resource, make sure you add the Open Custom Page dialog function here, and then you'll need to configure 3 parameters. You'll need to configure parameter 1 as primary control, parameter 2 is first primary item ID, and parameter 3 is a selected entity type name. Make sure they're in that order, otherwise it might not work as intended. With that though, you can just save and publish your custom command, and then we can move on to the next step, which is our flow. So as I already said, the generate button, what that will do is it's supposed to trigger a flow in the background. And once that flow is finished, it'll return the information to the app and the document as well. The flow itself, well, we'll take a look at that now. So this is also a flow that you can create as part of this custom page. What's important here is that when you initially create your custom flow for the app itself, you'll need to make sure it has an automatic trigger for when the app is called, or from when the flow is called from the custom page, from the Power App itself. Okay. You can see here, we have Power Apps, we have Entity, Template ID. These are parameters that'll come from the app itself. These are basically the parameters that we're passing in. And then you have the Create Document Sync step, where it'll take the parameters, first it'll take the information that has been passed in, insert it into these 2 parameters, Entity ID and Template ID, and then you need to take these 2 parameters, pass them into the Create Document step. So the template ID needs to go where the template is, entity ID needs to go where row ID is, and so on. In our case, we're also making sure that the file type is set to PDF. You also want to make sure this is saved to SharePoint too. And then from there, you can kind of handle it however you want. In our example, we have it set up so that way it'll show a PDF as our final result. So that's why this step is here. And then, of course, this step will respond to the Power App or flow. So, for example, the PDF content would then get printed out. However, if you just want to do something like putting out the link, the URL, you can just ignore this step entirely and then just type in document URL, and then it'll just pass back return value 2, which will be the URL of the document itself. But once that has been saved, or once you've created this flow and saved it, then you'll be all set and you'll be able to try out the app yourself. So that about does it for our flow. I think that's all we need to discuss there. But with the flow done and configured, we have shown off all of the steps that we need to make sure of when it comes to configuring this app. So we have our flow configured, we have the custom command configured, and we have our app already set. Now we can take a look at what this looks like in action. I already have a quote here, the construction and supply materials quote. This is the record we're going to be taking a look at. And as you can see, we still have that custom quoting button that is right on top of the command bar. If we go ahead and click the button, then you will see that the custom page will come out from the side. You'll see that we have information on a quote from the upper label, and of course we have the drop down here. If we enlarge it, you'll see, of course, we have the generate button here as well. Now, if we go ahead and click the generate button, you'll see it'll say document generation started, and then the document generation process will start. It might take a little bit, but Give it a few more seconds, and we should see our document popping up right about here. And there it is. Document generation successful. Give it another moment to load, and there we go. You'll see that there it is, the quote. And of course, if you click on the link, the document will show up here, and then you can go ahead and download the document yourself. Your finished generated document, all thanks to the custom page. So, that about does it here for our video here in Custom Pages. We hope you liked it. If you did enjoy it, please do consider checking out our channel for other content. Do consider liking the video and subscribing. And of course, for other detailed information on this article, such as the code that you will need for this app, don't forget to check out the article itself in the video description. That's it for me though. Once again, I'm Ethan Hamlet-Stroll as part of the technical documentation team for mscrm-addons.com, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you, and farewell.